And now your host for this evening, Prismo. This is a good cat right here. I mean, I can't set anything on the bathroom floor or she pees on it, so that's not good. And she's got poor litter box hygiene. It's very sloppy. She neglects her grooming a bit. But she's amazing. I hate that people are negative about black cats. I've had black cats all my life, and only good things have ever happened to me. Okay, not true. I mean, I have had black cats all my life. But black cats are awesome. I had Vincey when I was a kid. Black cat that could not handle the existence of Christmas trees. Just never stopped trying to knock them over. I had Dylan in high school. Dylan was such a great cat. Oh, poor Dylan died with his back half paralyzed, thumping against a bathroom door. Oh, poor kitty. Then, of course, Lewis, one of the great cats of my entire life. Lewis I had for 20 years. Lived so long. Oh, Lewis. Friendliest, sweetest cat of all time. So great. Everyone loved Lewis. Lewis had friends all over, like a 5-block radius. Everyone loved Lewis. And now Prismo. Great cat. Sorry, didn't expect to go off about the black cats I found. Well, you gotta bite me. Okay. Windy day in the world. I love it. As long as the roof stays on. So, these are all books about Glen Canyon and Lake Powell. And there's more. And TBH, there's more mixed in the Southwest section there. Oh, this is a paused ad. It's an anti-litter ad. Breaking Bad themed with Bryan Cranston. I have been to that spot so many times because that's Tohatchali. An episode of the show takes its name from there. A native village. Those cliffs are so distinctive. I passed through there many times. It's between here and through where I worked last summer. If I were to do an anti-littering campaign, this one is keep litter out of my territory. That's kind of funny. I often say Breaking Bad isn't the show Albuquerque needs. It's the show it deserves. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like, the most famous figures to come out of Albuquerque fictionally are meth dealers. They recently put up statues to them at the convention center inside. I do have mixed feelings about that a little bit. I mean, we need like some better pole stars to orient ourselves around. But Breaking Bad really does celebrate the place pretty well. And it's kind of faithful in its geography. Plays around a little bit. Like, why are the characters always driving out to Algodones, way out of town, to talk deals? Just go to one of the malls. When I finished that camp job, this was weird. The last day, one of my fellow staff members from the trek I was on, Sophia, this really interesting person with a wild history, been everywhere and done everything, used to have a job bioengineering watermelon. What? Well, she claims the government stole her patent. I'm like, what? Everybody is so interesting. Anyway, she went to a liquor store the last day before like a staff party, and Bryan Cranston was there, this actor. And he was like promoting a brand of vodka or something that he has. And he gave her a bottle and they had a conversation. I'm like, that's so wild. I've seen him in person at a baseball game event where he ran against amputees for like a Wounded Warrior fundraiser. It's kind of an unusual event. Stars of Breaking Bad versus people with artificial limbs. Like, who's writing this reality business? And at that event, I locked my keys in my car with my car running. So that was a great, great time. Missed a lot of the event. But heard it all from the parking lot. What's up, cat? Yeah, living in Albuquerque, you have a lot of overlap in your life with Breaking Bad. I've recently allowed myself to watch Graham Linehan's shows again. He was really like being kind of an ugly transphobe all over the interwebs. And having a trans sibling, I'm like, I don't care for that. And even if I didn't, I don't care for people being awful to other people. Come on. You know, there's that country song about a small town or whatever. Like, try that in a small town. But I've been in small towns where there are bearded women that hang out at the bar regularly and are beloved by everybody. You know, people don't care about all this stuff as much when they know people that are, you know, like part of something. I met this teacher who was a teacher at a middle school, and she was kind of conservative leaning, but she had a gay son. And so it was like, she was a really interesting mix of different politics. But just like having somebody in your life that is of this or that group will, you know, make you think about it a little more. Anyway, but the three like big shows that Graham Linehan was involved in, Black Books, Father Ted, and the IT Crowd, are just so funny, and they're like great comedy pinnacles, and they involve other people too. Like, this is all co-written with Dylan Moran, this brilliant Irish raconteur comedian, and it's so experimental. It's about these totally debauched people that just never stop drinking and run a bookstore and kind of hate the world. And it's so funny. I'd love to write fan fiction for the show. I have an idea for a collection of fictional stories that would all be fan fiction for different things. Like, I'd like to do one for Oz, one for the Tripods, one for this or that show. Like, as Remains of the Day is to P.G. Wodehouse's Jeeves and Wooster, I'd like to write something kind of serious about this, because why do these people have such a death drive? It's never talked about, theorized, or explained. They just do. So, like, there's got to be some, like, deep trauma, some wound there. Who wants to just kill themselves with drinking all day? Oh, I miss phone booths. And payphones. We don't even have payphones anymore. I remember when phone booths were going away. Anyway. Glen Canyon, Lake Powell. So this is a subject very near and dear to me, that I will always be connected to and involved in. I'm probably going to go off a ton. I could see this being like a few videos, and it'll bring... you know, some people to this channel probably, and drive others away. Remember, there's hundreds of videos now on this channel, and they're all kinds of topics. You don't have to watch the latest one. Go back and watch a sci-fi one or something. For some people, I think they'll have to access it through a PC, because I can't always even see all my videos on my phone. It's like it shows you latest, popular, and oldest. Like, those are your options. And you could probably search for individual things if you knew their titles. But anyway, Lake Powell is a reservoir in Utah and Arizona. I'm trying to think where my maps are, because those would be very helpful in explaining some things. Well, that's a bummer. Where are those maps? Look at this beautiful book for younger readers that I found today in a free box. I did love the stories of Enid Blyton as a kid, though I never read this. And I'm not really actively acquiring books for my kids now, but I'm like, this has to be in my house and displayed. It's so beautiful. Love it. Like, look at that water down there. Incredible. Back cover's great too. Excellent. 1968. Pinnacle of book design, IMO. 60s. Paperback, 1960s. Ugh, I think my Lake Powell maps are in these boxes somewhere. Okay, we're going to use this book to I need to, like, kind of say a couple things before I get into these books, maybe. The Colorado River. Giant river of the West, super important. Flows from, I think, Wyoming to the Gulf of Mexico. Super silty river. Rapid and crazy and narrow and winding in parts. Not so much in others. But one of the most languid, lovely, like, driftable stretches of it that anybody could go down in a little lifeboat, or just floating in the currents. Was Glen Canyon. This beautiful, beautiful place. It's in Utah and Arizona, overlapping at the border. What's up, Priz? Prismo, Prismo, Prismo. She's so great. Oh, yeah. Color photographs by W.L. Ruscho. He put together these Everett Rose books that are so amazing. Forward by Edward Abbey. And this is by C. Gregory Crampton. I could almost have a C. Gregory Crampton part on a shelf. I've got 4 books by him, I think. At least 3. But when I did my canoe trip around the circumference of Lake Powell, Lake Powell is the reservoir that covered Glen Canyon. And it is such a fascinating place. It arguably started the American environmental movement out there. I gotta tell this story in some sort of order. Okay, so Glen Canyon exists forever. Super interesting canyon. The Grand Canyon is just downstream of it. Kind of a famous place, maybe you've heard of it. In the 50s, the American Bureau of Reclamation was all about just building dams everywhere. It's kind of a New Deal 2.0 type situation. Oh, the West in Water, what a topic. Read that great, that's probably a book that we'll look at here. But Wallace Stegner's great book, Beyond the 100th Meridian, it really tells you a lot. This one, we'll get there in the Southwest. See, that could be in this section too. In fact, yes, I'm moving that one over. I moved 3 over. This will be in the next video. But anyway, so Glen Canyon got dammed. A dam got built in it. And the Sierra Club kind of let it happen. They were the big environmental group at the time. But they kind of bargained to protect Dinosaur National Monument from being dammed. And David Brower who was heading the Sierra Club at the time, had never even seen Glen Canyon before. We're here in the John McPhee section. Encounters with the Archdruid. This is a great book about David Brower from the Sierra Club and Floyd Dominy, who built the dam and named Lake Powell. Them going on a river trip together through Glen Canyon. Fascinating. Great way to do it. John McPhee, you're a great writer. So that's also a book that's perpetuated some myths, like about people jumping off of dams and getting all their skin scraped off before they hit the bottom. That doesn't really happen. Prisma took my seat when I was away, but that's fine. Kitty writes. Prisma has such a beautiful face. Black cats have this really beautiful face, but they don't always photograph well. Like, it's not easy to see it. In a piece of writing about Lake Powell, I wrote that it had the shape of a flattened millipede. This is Lake Powell at full volume. As you can see, the water filled all these canyons. 180 some miles of the Colorado River, 70 some miles of the San Juan River over here, most of the Escalante River and the Dirty Devil River up here. And also some really long canyons like Navajo Canyon over here. Oh, and in really flat areas, it made bays. And these bays are incredible. Have you ever lived on a mirror? I have. Canoeing around, just living on the surface of a mirror all day, every day. Incredible, endless little, so I canoed around this whole thing, staying just at like about a few feet away from the shore. I thought it would help me from getting lost. I read the journals of Lewis and Clark. I was really inspired. This copy, this edition right here. It's taped up. And I knew I wanted to do a river trip. I was young and like just looking to fill my life with adventure. I recommend that mode to the young and to all, if possible. No regrets, to quote that internet meme of a neck tattoo. But I thought I could do a river trip, so I went and checked out the Snake River in Idaho, and I brought this canoe I bought out of a classified ad. That classified ad. And the Snake River thing did not go well. I just got swept down river and like nearly killed and almost drowned and so on. So I was like, I'm gonna find like a lake or something, some flat water, some contained thing. Also, I always worry about getting lost because like I haven't always directionally been the best. So I was like, instead of navigating a network of rivers, I could follow a shoreline, you know, cool. So I thought about Hudson Bay and I made plans to do this at Hudson Bay. I was like, dang, I'm gonna have to worry about like polar bears and stuff. That would have been a crazy trip. I still might think about doing that one someday. Going all around the circumference of Hudson Bay in some way, some hand-powered way. I think even sailing would be cool. Whatever. But hand-powered appeals to me, like canoeing or rowing or kayaking. Kayaking would be regionally appropriate since the kayak came from the north. But then I went on a Jeep trip with a Jeep group to, where is it? Utah. Build me a cabin in Utah. It's a Dylan lyric. But I beheld Lake Powell from the hole in the rock overlook. That's the view exactly right there. And it blew my mind. I was like, what? Am I on Mars? Out of that Matthew Sweet album titled Blue Sky on Mars. This is incredible. Though, of course, as Edward Abbey has said, yeah, even the Taj Mahal would look beautiful if half drowned in water. I understand the resistance to the dam a lot, and I've, had profound moments feeling like this thing is a mistake. It should never have happened. But also, it's very ephemeral. Lake Powell is mostly gone now. It's a double lost world, and it's a double lost world I've wandered through so much. Makes me a ghost. Lake Powell took away Glen Canyon, and as I did that trip I, researched and thought about it and learned about it and deduced from my settings what had been lost there and felt it. And I felt that trapped river that was there. But now Lake Powell is mostly gone because of drought and global warming and and water allocation in the West. There's a campaign to fill Mead first that I think makes a lot of sense. I think they should do that and decommission the dam and drill tunnels on either side of it and let that water through. It's really hurt the Grand Canyon too. The Grand Canyon doesn't have beaches anymore. The fish have all gone basically extinct downstream until recent releases and efforts to correct that. But then also around the same time I saw this view, a friend of mine just that I happened to be visiting, I hitchhiked from like Salt Lake City to Provo or wherever he was living. He was all, Lake Powell's so huge, you could live on it. And all of a sudden, all the pieces, he's like, I knew someone who did on a houseboat. And suddenly all of the pieces just clicked together. And I was like, want to go canoeing, want to do a big trip, want to follow a shoreline. That place was really beautiful that I saw. And you could live on it. It's pretty wild. So I did this trip. This was the oar I used the whole time. My daughter Willow has since painted and decorated it. I love it. I think she improved it. Look, there's me canoeing with an oar on the oar. I mean, what? This is like Inception, basically. I'm trying to... Oh, what is that? Does that say A.L.? I think she had a pseudonym she wanted to use for a little while. What was it? I think it was Ava something. Ava Light. That was it. Ava Light. She was going to start this YouTube channel where she found things or just got things and then did art makeovers on it. I think she should still do it. But she gets camera shy, which is a shame because she's like just so cute and fashionable and like just a real, I don't know. She really enjoyed doing her audition tape for Little House on the Prairie reboot. So I think she does have that aspect of herself. She just is reluctant to dive into it. I think this was something she made for that show. It was a little painted aquarium thing. Turned it into something cooler. I still like it. So anyway, in a piece of... So I have a lot of books about Lake Powell. Oh, there's more to say, though. So that trip took 6.5 months. It was a huge part of my life. I did the first third by myself, the second third with my friend Ray, who came out on a surprise visit, and then the final third by myself again. It took 6.5 months. I was often windbound. It was so windy. The Coast Guard classifies Lake Powell as an inland ocean because there's these high walls. I mean, they used to be much higher, of course, but in places the water is like 300 or 400 feet deep and you're just along a steep rock wall. I would say most of the times I've almost died in my life, aside from daily driving stuff, were on this trip. I had so many close calls and crazy things. I had a tent blow off a cliff. I had a tent catch fire. I had a tent roll down a slope with me in it during a windstorm. I had really crazy adventures. Saw some wild stuff. Hiked all around the area. My friend and I climbed Navajo Mountain, this amazing mountain. You can see in the background of a lot of shots of Planet of the Apes if you ever want to see it. So that's where this place is. See, Utah, Arizona, right there on the border. This is such a cool book, and it's such a cool idea for a book. This guy, Gregory Crampton, wanted people to be able to follow around, to remember and keep the memory of Glen Canyon alive while having an experience on the lake. Like, because you can't help but enjoy Lake Powell when you go out there. It is like no place else. It's home to the world's largest rock arch. That thing is so huge. That's Rainbow Bridge. It will stun you into silence if you approach it correctly. It's taller than the Statue of Liberty. You could just set the Statue of Liberty right under that thing, I think. This is in a crazy canyon, forbidding canyon. Almost died a couple of times in that canyon because of these huge boats. They were swamping us with their waves. You know, everywhere there's ancient things. Oh yeah, that's the cabin of Bert Loper, a hermit out there from ancient times. Well, not that long ago, but like 100 years ago. I had a vivid dream about his life one time. Felt a connection because I was kind of a weirdo hermit out there too. My neighbors are yelling. I think they're playing video games. This gives you some idea of what Lake Powell looked like. I mean, it looks like... Yeah, I have since been back to many of those northern Lake Powell sites, some many times and some recently, including to the spot where I started and ended my trip. Just on a surprise when I was working on that job, that wilderness camp job, which I may or may not do again this year. I don't know. I got to figure things out. How do people have money and not die? Well, how does that work? Yeah, this is a great book. I'll look at this one later a little more. But anyway, I could make that the end of this video and just call it the introduction to the Lake Powell Glen Canyon books. But let's start here. So this is, this was probably sold at marinas. Like they have merchandise shops there, and there used to be a bunch of marinas on Lake Powell. And, or in Page, Arizona, the dam town. Spectacular Lake Powell country. 250 photographs in full color. But Stan Jones, RIP to a real one. That guy was super interesting. He was Mr. Lake Powell. He had this famous map called the Stan Jones map. I got to find those maps before I'm done with this Lake Powell section because they're significant and really should go with these books. But I started hearing about him on the trip. Like, oh, have you heard of Mr. Lake Powell, Stan Jones? This guy went out there like shortly after the dam was built and just started documenting it and exploring it as the water filled all the various canyons. And he brought like a steel ladder with him so that he could visit everything. And he was often the first person to like ever see sites in modern times. And an interesting sort of exploration in tandem with the reservoir rising. Wow. Which it was a very wild time. Sometimes animals would be trapped on islands. Like an island would just be covered in snakes because it had been a pinnacle that rose up. Natural features disappearing, Wow. But when I got to the south end of the lake, which was about the halfway, kind of a sort of halfway point of the trip in my mind, I switched maps again. Maybe, can't remember if I switched maps there. But when I switched quadrants anyway. But I stayed with this family in Page, Arizona, and that I happened to meet, and they're like, "Oh, we know Stan. We'll introduce you." And so they called him up, and I got to go meet him. Hung out at his house in his library. I've written about it, and in my unpublished chapter of book one of my book, which I have titled "The Silence Underneath the Rain Dawn Bridge," and again, I have videos about most of the chapters of book one of my book. I need to do one or two more to finish it up. But there's one talking about that one. Anyway, but Stan Jones was super nice. He was idiosyncratic and eccentric, but I kept asking him questions. He'd say, "It's on my map. It's on my map." I'm like, "I've never seen your map. Never heard of it." So yeah, I got a lot of visuals to illustrate this one. Steaming Knolls, www. That's when I was doing research. The book I wrote about that trip, I called it Once Around. I spent years of the early 2000s working on it, writing about that trip. I had all my journals typed up, and I edited and reshaped and reformatted and researched and added stuff to. That was my big writing school of my life. I mean, that's since been replaced by the book I've been working on now. It's a bigger writing school than ever. I mean, look at this fantastic geography. No place looks like this place. And, the reservoir was often called the most beautiful, the most hated and the most beautiful reservoir in the world. There are activists that it just makes them sick and they can't even look at it. But I'm like, it's still, I don't know. I'm an enjoyer of what is, I guess. And I do see a need for reservoirs in the West. I mean, but they shouldn't have damned this place. It really was a crime. Lake Powell Glen Canyon before Lake Powell is a really good book I don't have, and that's the book that kind of changed my mind on it all. Like, they should never have dammed it, and we should really talk about draining it, because there were a lot of arguments against draining it, like it'll be irreparably damaged, but now it's half drained, and it's recovering like crazy. I mean, yeah, you're not going to get all the ruins back, and now there's invasive species like tamarisk that crowd the canyons, but also Russian olive, but mostly tamarisk. But even people like Gary Ladd, who used to be like the most pro Lake Powell people in my consideration, they made careers out of photographing it. And last time I was in the Lake Powell Glen Canyon area, which was with the summer camp job I was working, there was a book by him that was very critical of the lake and like very pro Glen Canyon. I think the attitudes have changed a lot, but I mean, there's still areas that feel like they depend upon it for money, like Page, Arizona. But I think, the desert is all about adaptation, and I think Glen Canyon would be a very popular river rafting and historic and recreational hiking site. I mean, and historic more than that. It's just so beautiful. I love the canyon country. I've got so much red dirt in my blood now. I feel it. Like, I feel right when I'm in that place. The Colorado Plateau is incredible. Anyway, all right, so a little visual intro to Lake Powell. Yeah, and good old Stan Jones. We used to write too. Well, I would write, and he would record himself talking on a cassette tape for like an hour and then send me these tapes. So we had a neat, cool guy. I remember reading his obituary in American, in Arizona Highways magazine. Mr. Lake Powell. Okay, this is a magazine, but it's about giant San Juan County in Utah, which is so huge. It's like one of the biggest counties in the country. And so much has happened there, but this is super interesting, and I kept it in particular. So this had some of Lake Powell is in San Juan County. Okay, but on page 72 is an incredible article, The Millennium as Envisioned by Marie M. Ogden. So if you have driven through Utah, you have seen this amazing rock formation. If you've watched Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, you've seen this amazing rock formation in the opening sequence. Church Rock, it's called. I've had some experiences around there. It's a very interesting place. That's in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, like young Indiana goes into a cave in it. But there was this prophetess that thought Jesus was going to come back on the very top of that thing. And yeah, so yeah, if I've learned anything from the history of cults and stuff, it's don't make really like time-specific predictions. You are probably going to have to walk that stuff back eventually, and it's going to undermine your authority. See, that's what this channel offers. Like, there's a little tip for cult leaders out there. Both these books are in this specific shelf because of Everett Ruiz. These are Ruiz's wilderness journals. They're good. They're not as good as his letters. I appreciate the polish and extra thought of his letters. But he was a really thoughtful, interesting writer. You know, he had some period expected attitudes toward animals. Like, he beat his dog and mules and stuff, and I hate that. You know, would write about that. One time he beat his dog so bad his dog just ran away. I'm like, that's horrible. But he was like this brilliant and thoughtful writer. I mean, yeah, that's a bad introduction of him. And he is this guy who... I think that's relevant, though, because he may have intentionally left his... some people say he would never have left his donkey just tied up like that and then disappeared. And I think he might have. He did show a disregard for animals sometimes. He might not have cared. He might have thought, that thing's kicked me so many times, I don't care what happens to her. In 1934, Everett Ruiz, this artist, explorer, wanderer, vanished into the deserts of Utah. What happened to him? No one knows. Did he intend to vanish? Did he die? Did he intend to vanish and then die before he could re-enter society? There's a chapter about him in this book, Into the Wild, and that's why one of the copies that I have of this book is in this section. But there's 2 or 3 copies in this house, because it's a very influential book in my life. Made me move to Alaska when I was 17. Been to Chris's bus twice that he died in. This is also a very good introduction to the story of Everett Ruiz. There's a solid chapter that distills the literature and talks about it well. Krakauer's a good writer. So crazy. When I was on that canoe trip, I was rereading this book because I was just obsessed with this book for years and this story, and I like to reread it. Kansas is like my family. There's even a wall art copy. Here's Kim, my friend Kim, and I going to the bus. Here's my friend Ray and my dad and I at the bus when I was, that was the first trip we took out there. First trip was in a helicopter, second trip we hiked out to it. I'm not the kind of person that just gets a helicopter, but my dad surprised my roommate and friend and I, and was like, let's get a helicopter. You can rent things like that in Alaska. You know, someone pilots it. In fact, I remember the pilot that time saying that he had just recently talked to McCandless's parents on the phone and about taking them out there. He also said he piloted black helicopters for the government. Remember when we flew in, that blue barrel there rocked from the rotors. Anyway, in this book about Chris McCandless, Krakauer talks for a chapter about Everett Ruiz, and Everett Ruiz really is just a great story. He was a great artist, too. Let's see if there's any of his lithographs here. And an iconic figure, and he disappeared mysteriously, carving the name Nemo. Oh my gosh, look at this. The last or one of the last books Leanne gave me. No way. I did not remember that. My sister Leanne, who died in 2001. Looks like one of my kids drew in this a long time ago. Huh. It's probably some baby Anodyne work. Thanks, Anodyne. Oh, that's amazing. We'll definitely see some more Everett Ruiz books here. R.I.P. I guess a book collection really is a personalized thing, you know? You have what you have, and they reflect your interests and life experiences. And there's also that personal level of like, who gave you this? What's up, Squirrel? You thinking about jumping up to that next shelf? I can lift you up there if you want. Squirrel, ruler of the roost. Prisma of the public wants to know, what do you think of your baby being up so high? Squirrel's like Godzilla appearing at Lake Powell. Has there ever been a feline kaiju? Maybe some leonine ones, kind of. Wow, this video is already at a half an hour, and I know I could talk about all these books a bunch, so maybe I should stop it. Maybe I'll do another one today. It is a day off, kind of, and I feel adrift. I need to look up these articles I'm working on. Squirrel's very territorial. She knocked that picture of another cat crooked. Squirrel, there were other kitties before you. Just going to have to accept that. I can't close this door because Squirrel wants to look out. Prisma. Anyway, yeah, let's call that good for now. But I guess this is going to be like a section because I just have a lot to say about all the Lake Powell stuff. I wonder if these books will go a little slower than some others. Just like a few per video. Blah, blah, blah. Will this sync the channel? We'll see. Oh, here comes Squirrel. How'd you get down? All right. Take care, everybody. You know, I was at a gas pump today, and I already have annotations to make on that last graffiti video. Followers are climbing on the site. It's crazy. I have like over 400 followers now. It's like 430 or something. That is wild. Who are you people? How did you so lose your way? There's like really well-produced stuff out there you could be watching. All right. Well, I'm glad you're all out there. This is fun. I'm having a good time. To quote that one, who's that comedian? Dusty Slay. He's so funny. He always says, we're having a good time. This is one of my favorite artifacts from Lake Powell. I don't know if you can tell in this picture, but like this is the kind of like what my campsites were like. Sometimes it was very hard to find a place to camp. See that white line there? That's called the bathtub ring. That indicates the higher level calcite deposit from the lake around the edges of it all. That indicates the highest water level. So you can see that when I was on the lake, it was pretty high still. Like, in fact, it was the highest it's been since that time. I don't think it's ever come anywhere near that again. Like, nobody could beat my claim, of being the only person to canoe around the circumference of Lake Powell, because it's just never going to be that full again. But like this is my first tent that I had on the lake. It's like it would be up on you find a flat rock somewhere. Hopefully it's flat. It's my dinner area, and you can see the canoe down there. But I mean, wow, it was amazing. I experienced silence like nothing else. I had a month of total solitude. A great trip in my life, you know. At the time, I'm a little embarrassed. I would sometimes quote that Ayn Rand quote, "The person not fit for solitude is not fit for society." And, but honestly, I think solitude can make you a little bit loopy. Makes you weird forever in a different way. It doesn't really make you fit for society. It makes you just fit for a world of your own making. But, what a trip that was. Strange chapter of my life. It was good to write about it. It really was my writing school in the early 2000s. I learned so much from writing an unreadable, apparently 600, 700 page book about it all. Everyone was like, it's too much detail. It's too much about this trip. It's every day. You researched every relevant topic and brought it in. But it taught me things, and it helped me create my style. And then later, it was the basis for the chapter of my book, which is still like 200 pages. I abridged it. I didn't talk about every day. I had little jumps here and there, like 2 weeks go by. But now it's one of my favorite chapters in the book, The Sounds Underneath the Rain-Down Bridge. It's a subjective guidebook novel, like a useless guidebook. All the canyon names are bolded, and there's an index and a bibliography. It's like, how is this a guide to the place? It's just your experiences there at a specific time. Funny. Just a notion that made me laugh. Always fun to play with form. So, looked at 4 books, and it's almost 40 minutes. This was a good one for getting like a visual sense of the place, since I'm going to be talking about it. So maybe some of y'all have Lake Powell, Glen Canyon memories. If you find this video, there's a likelihood of that, right? Blue Mountain Shadows. Magazine of San Juan County History. Okay. It's nice. It feels solid. It's got a thick cardstock cover. Robert R. Lyman, Lake Powell, Marriott. Of Women's San Juan Environment and Archaeology. Yeah, people on the Colorado Plateau do seem to care about the history of it, and I like that. And started talking about Ruis a little bit. A little digression about Chris McCandless. Okay. Next, we'll look at these. And these are both about John Wesley Powell, and he's a great topic. So if you know about him, maybe we can talk some John Wesley Powell. All right. Well, take care, everybody. Oh, and Joseph, the cat in France. This footage is for you. There's a cat in France who might be obsessed with baby squirrel. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Take care.